All right, welcome everyone.
Recording in progress.
Good
Thanks
afternoon.
everyone. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Thanks everyone for joining. Okay, we got a little bit we got to cover today. Just want to thank everybody for who chose to attend. We got a good program today with some great information. One of our presenters is a longstanding member of the chamber, as well as a board member as well. Just some quick housekeeping. Um, if you are not familiar, we've just recently launched um, our new site, and it is live right now. So if you get a chance, I want you guys to go ahead and check it out. When you get a chance, it is dot www.marylandbcc.org. That's www.marylandbcc.org. So we got a good guest today. We talking about annuities and retirement. So we'll go ahead and I'll bring our first person up. And again, his name is William Smith, a longtime member of the chamber, as well as board member as well. So we'll bring him up with us. What's going on, Will? How you doing, man?
Man, I'm doing great, brother. Thanks for having me, Nelson. Love the work that we're doing at the chamber. It's cool to be able to do so much work, behind the scenes and everything like that, and then be able to give back in a way like this. It's pretty cool, man. A little under the weather, man. So if I'm not speaking loud enough, please let me know.
Nah, I appreciate it. I appreciate it. So just to kind of give everybody some background, I mean, I've known Will for a while, actually since college, but one of the first things he said was a goal of his was to put every week at least $1 million. Was it every week? Might have been every month, every week, but one of the two, every week?
Every month, every month.
Every month he wanted to put $1 million in the Black community by using life insurance. It was a very compelling and practical way of how to introduce wealth back into our community. And I will say he's lived up to that goal. And that was probably more than maybe 10 to 15 years ago. And he's been
You're
on
aging
that
us,
path.
bro. You're aging us, man.
But it's glad to see him come such a long way. And we've been dedicated to the chamber and bringing it. So the information we have here is great. Melissa, I'm going to ask if you could just, okay, we got some more people joining. Thank you for coming in. If you could launch that poll, we always like to send a poll to all of our attendees to get an idea of who's in our audience, right? We want to know who's in our audience so that when we're talking to, we want to make sure we're talking to your needs, and we want to make sure we're addressing your concerns. So we can go ahead and launch that poll when you get a chance, Melissa.
You did it. Just here.
Oh, I never get to participate in the poll when I'm a host.
A webinar. No.
We're gonna ask that as you come in, just mute yourself. I'll give you guys, me help you guys with that.
Now, do I get to see the poll if I'm a co-host?
I don't think you get to see the poll as well.
I want to take the poll. I'm participating in this one.
So just real quick, some of the questions we have on here, and we'll share the results with everyone.
I answered no to one question, and it's actually I forgot I do have a 401k now.
Okay,
It's guaranteed.
no problem about it. We'll
Nice. Congrats on that, Karen. You seem like that's a big deal for you.
All right. Let's see. Can I share the poll? Can you share the poll results? It's not. Yeah, they always do this to me. I gotta stay a participant when I come to these meetings. Are you sharing the poll results? Can you guys see the poll results? For some reason they won't.
Yes, I see them.
Oh, that sucks. I can't see them.
Yeah, they always they take away our ability.
May I read them to you?
Melissa, can you share them with us? Melissa will share them with us.
Okay.
Melissa, can you share the poll results? Just share them. So read them out to everyone. I can't see them, unfortunately.
Okay, so the first one, are you a NBCC member? 67% said yes, 33% said no. Are you a business owner? 100% said yes. What's your biggest concern regarding retirement? 17% said healthcare costs, 83% said running out of money. How close are you to retirement? 50% said retiring in 6 to 10 years. The other half said retiring in 10 or more. Last question, do you own an individual retirement account? Half said yes, half said no.
And we know we got one person that said it. So awesome. These are some really good questions, really good responses. Thanks for sharing with us. We're going to go ahead and, well, so one, just to give a little bit of background, I think I saw Michael. I think Michael showed up as well. Well, just give us a little bit of background. How'd you get into the industry? What made you start Legacy Empowerment Group? Go ahead and unmute yourself, Will, so we could.
All right. So yeah, started Legacy Empowerment Group back in 2008. And the reason why I started it back in 2008 was because I just been in a place where I'm a graduate of University of Maryland, College Park. And so before going to University of Maryland, College Park, I went to Black schools my whole life. But when I got to University of Maryland, College Park, I saw a lot of wealth disparity, right? I went to school with kids who grew up on the Jersey Shore, who were rich as I don't know what, kids who grew up in Potomac, Virginia, Great Falls, all that. And so I just saw it just was a big wealth disparity. And so the thing that made a big difference for me was just like having these side conversations with these kids, and these kids already having trust set up for their families. I remember I was talking to this one Indian kid in a statistics class, and he was saying, I asked him, I said, look, how do y'all set up all these subways? I mean, we're kids with the stereotype stuff. But I was like, how do y'all own all the subways? And he was like, well, we have life insurance policies on our oldest family members, and we take that money and we use it to start businesses. And he said that as a sophomore in college. So he already knew the wealth plan. And my family, we didn't have any type of conversations like that at all. And so to me, that was just a thing where I said, you know what? I'm gonna learn as much as I can so that I can impact my community in a way that's similar to how he had already set up his family's already set up.
Yeah, and I'm gonna go ahead, and Michael's also. Michael, we met over the past like several months, and I learned a little bit about your background. But just to share with our audience, just so they're familiar with who you are, tell us a little bit about how you got into the industry, and how you got introduced to the industry and your role at Fed Legacy.
So good afternoon, everyone. I guess a little bit about me. I went to North Carolina A&T for undergrad and graduate, and that was in computer science. I was more in tech and doing cybersecurity.
Okay.
And probably about through mutual acquaintances, maybe 6 or 7 years ago, I made a shift. I was a project manager working for Big Pharma, and I was starting to get more into finances. I was starting to get more into basically managing people and managing money. And I realized that what I wanted to do in my career and the impact I wanted to make, I would make a bigger impact than basically in cybersecurity. So I met William basically through some mutual friends, and we started talking about what he was doing, and I really bought into his vision and basically what he was just speaking to earlier about helping our community, like speaking about money, learning about money, because it wasn't things that were spoken about in my household. It was things I learned much later on in life. So basically being able to like give that information, but also help when it comes to retirement and things of that nature. So basically at Fed Legacy, I help with operations. I'm an advisor as well, just because of my project management background and just making sure things behind the scenes run smoothly. but then also just making sure that the information is getting out and it's getting out in a way that's understandable.
Yeah, and you guys have a pretty vast like network of people that you help in the area plan for retirement. And so one of the big questions that we asked in our poll was, "What's your biggest concern in retirement?" And it seems like the biggest concern that we have from our poll were people, their biggest concern is running out of money, right? So Will, in your experience, what have you seen as far as that as a concern is running out of money, and what have you seen, and what kind of solutions you put in place to help families with that?
All right, can I share my screen real quick?
Yeah, let's give you go ahead. You go ahead and share your screen.
Yeah. Okay. Hold on. All right. So this right here, right? So at Fed Legacy, when it comes to running out of money, the reason why most people run out of money is because they have their money, they don't have their money in the proper buckets, right? And so most people have their money all in bonds accounts or safe funds, or in a savings account or in an old job that they don't know, how the money's being invested. So they take a passive approach, right? And so when you take a passive approach to your retirement money, then you typically run into trouble when the market is going up and down and you're taking income from it, right? And so at Fed Legacy, we make sure that we have put our clients into three buckets, right? The first bucket is the foundation bucket. This money is protected. This money is there for a variety of things like long-term care, legacy. It depends on what the person's ultimate purpose for what they want their money to look like. Then that's what we put in the foundation, right? But that money's protected money. It grows in a protected way. Then we have our walls, right? And our walls are money that's insulating you from taxes. It's insulating you from inflation, because one of the things that causes a lot of people to lose money is inflation. So like over the last 2 years, inflation was at 6%, but most bond accounts returned 2 and 1% over the last 2 years. So yeah, your money, you didn't lose any money, but your money, you lost buying power because your money's not performing in a way that can outgrow inflation. And then we have what we call our roof in the financial house. And that's money that you have that's in the market, right? You never want to have no money in the market. I know some people are like, well, I don't want to risk no money, but and then if you look like it last year, the market was down 20%, but this year is back up 20%, right? And so you want to make sure that when the market is doing well, you want to capture some of that growth, because that will prevent you from running out of money over time. So we just believe in what we call out your financial house, which is 3 different buckets of money, and making sure you have your money separated like this. That way you won't run out of money.
That makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. And I've heard you guys speak a little bit to this house. And one of the things that you mentioned was healthcare costs. And that's one thing I'm realizing, even through my experience with my my mother-in-law and her retirement. And I've heard you guys advise people as far as this. But Michael, why don't you talk a little bit about healthcare costs? That was one of the other concerns that people's mentioned might be a concern in retirement. So how does healthcare costs play into when you're planning for retirement? And do you see that's typical place where people might overlook?
It is, and also when you're talking about healthcare costs, it goes to that number one fear. Are we going to run out of money? Am I going to have enough money? On average, I think it was 2021. The average healthcare cost was $200,000 for someone in retirement over the course of their life in retirement on. So when you're talking about that type of cost, you want to know, am I going to have enough if a health event happens? Most people at the age of retirement, they're taking care of their parents. So it's very evident that healthcare costs. It's right there in their face. So if you're not preparing for it, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So it's one of those things of understanding how much that costs. Like I said, that number is around 200,000 right now. It can go up or down. But when we work with our clients, we basically take that into consideration, And can you weather the storm of a life event? We call it a life event when it comes to health. If you have to have health care come into your home, if you have to go to a nursing home, or if you have to have care at home, what's the cost going to be, and how's that going to affect your retirement? Because $200,000 is a lot of money for someone that only has $400,000 for retirement.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, if you think about it, everybody is well, not everybody, but most people are going to have some type. And I mean, I'm in health insurance, and the common thing is that health costs go up with age. Health insurance companies build in for it, life insurance company built in for it. So to me, it just seems if you're planning for retirement, you should have that as part of your plan. All the companies are planning for it as well. All right, one other part, how often do you see that? This one of the fears. I mean, we didn't seem like it was a big concern for our audience, but going back to work. Will, what do you see in that? How are you seeing a lot of that some people do have to go back into work? And then what part of your financial house do you need to be concerned with when you're talking about that, as far as the income part and having to go back to work?
Well, when it comes to going back to work, I mean, it just depends. Like some people go back to work because they love it, right? Like one of the things I talk to
Right.
my clients about all the time is just like, if you don't have to retire, don't retire. Pick up some contract gigs just to stay active, right? So going back to work because you want to stay active is one thing, but going back to work because you need the income is a whole different thing, right? And so our clients that we typically service are federal employee and military, but for the chamber, it's a bit different because now we're talking to business owners, right? And so when it comes to building your business, one of the things you want to make sure you do is maybe even building some cash flow into your business so that even while you're retired, you can, well, getting ready to retire, you can still have some cash flow in your business so you don't have to go back to work or building a business to sell. I think that's a conversation that we need to have more of. Is like, how do you build a business that you could sell that can then, be your retirement plan?
Yeah, that's a good point. We've done some webinars on business succession planning, and it's been a big part, which is a little bit off topic, right? Because I know that's something else you guys advise on, and it's a big part, is estate planning, right? Talk about a little bit about why that's important, right? Thinking about, estate planning as part of when you're thinking about retirement.
Go ahead, Mike.
When it comes to estate planning, it's something that you want to have in place because you want to know where your money is going if something was to happen to you. That's where you look at, do you have your will in place? Do you have your trust in place? Do you have your beneficiaries named? So, if you've been divorced or if you want to change your beneficiaries, or do you have a loved one that's passed away as a beneficiary? You want to make sure all those things are in place because it can actually become a really big task for your family afterwards. So that's actually something you really want to make sure you have in place when it comes to retirement. And then as business owners, you want to make sure you have your basically your estate plan in place for your business. Do you have key man insurance? Who's going to pass if something happens to you? Who's going to run the business? Just things of that nature. You want to make sure it's taken care of as you go into retirement. Otherwise, it can actually become a really big ordeal on the back end.
Yeah. So and let's pause right there. Right, because I think we're talking about this is the power of annuities. So Michael, just for those who I'm sure most people know, that's probably why they signed up, but just at a high level, just to make sure that we're on the same page, really quickly, tell us what is an annuity. We don't need to get into too much granular details because we'll have some more discussion on this later. But just what is an annuity?
Also, annuity at a really high level. Most people know annuity to be a retirement account that's going to pay you for life, a certain amount. That's how most people see it. Annuity as it's a retirement account that's gonna basically guarantee me a certain amount of money for a certain amount of time. There's other variables to that. That doesn't always have to be the case. You don't have to necessarily take that fixed amount. You can let the money grow. But overall, it's an account that can protect your money in retirement and make sure that you have money in retirement.
Yeah, and I think that's a big part. I've heard the presentation a few times. when you talk about protecting from the market, talk a little bit about how an annuity can protect you from the market. And I know, Will, you there's a scenario that kind of really made it clear for me when you talked about the two scenarios, right? Yeah, the two scenarios, which talks about how I really think it illustrates about when you talk about market protection and what's going on in the market, because like you said, a big concern is running out of money, right? So can you talk a little bit about how that can help you protect from the market?
Yeah. So, well, on the annuity side, annuities allow you to be invested into the market through index funds. Index funds are just funds that track different sectors of the market, and you get returns based on how that particular sector works or index works. But at the same time, because annuities, what they do is annuities have most of them have 7 or 10-year windows in which you have to keep your money there, which allows you to get that protection from, when the market goes down to -20 like last year, you get a 0% return. That's beneficial to have in your portfolio, because over time, as the market continues to go up and you're not getting those negative returns, your money does increase. And so let me show you. Want to share my screen again? I guess I can now. Hold on. I'm gonna share with y'all. Okay. Oh.
And while you do that, you guys just looking at the comments, someone has a question that says, as a business owner, we'll get back to that comment. If you do have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. We're going to save them for later, and then we'll definitely address your questions and have some time for questions at the end.
Okay.
Go ahead, Will.
So yeah, okay. So this is a concept called income and sequence of returns, right? And so when it comes to run out of money, the thing you can't control is how the market is going to perform the years that you go to retire, right? And if you're taking income from your retirement account and the market's not doing well, what you're ultimately doing is you're selling every time you take income from your account, you're selling shares at that price, but at that time period, right? So here's an example of two sisters, two different returns, right? Each sister had 500,000 in their IRA. Both used 30,000 in annual income for retirement, right? And so can somebody do the math for me? What's 30,000 divided by 12? How much income is that? Somebody do the math for me. One of the not Nelson, Mike, or Nelson or Mike. Anybody, somebody do the
You want to know 30,000 divided by 12?
Yeah.
2,500.
Okay. All right, 2,500. So that's $2,500 a month on top of their Social Security, which is a reasonable amount for somebody to take out, right? And so here you go. You got Jane, you got Jill. Jane retired in 2010. Jill retired in 2000, right? So she retired 10 years later. Now, Jane, when she retired, the market was doing well, right? And so her first 3 years, the market returned 12%. It didn't return anything the next year, but the next year after that, it returned 13, then 29. So she had a good years of return, right? But at the end of her 10-year period, even though she had 500,000 to start taking 30,000, she ended up with 874,000 in money in her IRA, right? Now her sister retired in 2000, 10 years before her, same 500,000, but in her 10-year sequence, the market in 2000, the market returned -10. In 2001, it returned -13. These are real numbers. 2002, it returned -23%. So at the end of 10 years, she had 96,000, right? Which, as Mike was mentioning earlier, is not enough to take care of your long-term care issues. Now,
Right.
she didn't do anything wrong or, anything different than her sister. It just was the fact that the market those years didn't return the same amount. This is what happened. Sorry, I'm under the weather a little bit. But this is what happens when you don't have your money diversified and you're depending on the market or you're taking a passive approach. Because those negatives, when you're taking income, really impacts your money. And so it's okay if you're in a positive market, but if the next 10 years, none of us know what the next 10 years looks like. But if you're taking money from a retirement account that has no level of protection in it, you could get yourself into some pretty big trouble, and it's not even nothing that you did, right? And so I hope that answers your question, though.
Yeah, it does. I mean,
just to
go ahead, Mike.
no, I was gonna say just to add to your question, Nelson. A lot of times you hear people say, why not invest in the market? The market returns well. The market returns well if you look at the average, but when you go year by year, you could find yourself in this scenario, and then, like to Will's point, it's not your fault. It's just the way the market played out. So, what an annuity offers you is that protection from the market. Basically, what we say is giving people the time they can sleep at night.
No, that's awesome. So essentially what you're doing is you're locking in the loss is pretty much what it sounds like is what's happening. If there's a loss, you can lock it in.
Yeah,
Is that a good way of looking at it?
well, that's what's happening. That's exactly what happens if it's a down market and you're taking income from an account. You are, because let's say, and I know this is high level, y'all. If y'all don't follow me, sorry, right? But I just want to make sure we make the point. Is if you have an account, right, with your retirement account, your 401k, and your share price is at $100 a share, but the market drops down to 20%. So now your shares are 80, and you're taking income. You're selling the shares at $80 a share, right? And so that just completely decreases your account over time, and that's what you see happening here with Jill, where her sisters were at 874 and hers at 96 over that same period of time, because it just begins to collapse. And so I'm sure many of us are familiar with compound interest. This is just the way compound interest works in the negative, right? And so
Got you.
you just got to be you just have to be cognizant of this stuff, and that's why you want to have your money in different buckets.
So, and then annuity is one of those buckets. So now in this situation or in a situation like this, how does an annuity help you like protect you against this?
So those negatives 10s
So
and those negative 13s and that negative 23, those would have been zeros, right? And so her principal balance would have been protected from those negatives in the market. Right now, we're not saying put all your money in annuities. Annuities is just one of the buckets that you have. But if you're taking income, it's best to take it from accounts like this that are annuities, because, but not like this, but put it into accounts that are annuity like, because you don't have those negatives along with the income coming out.
Okay, awesome. Got you. So let's talk a little bit about, if someone like what's the requirements? How do you know that you're in a position where you're right for this product? Like, do you have to be already retired? Are you approaching retirement? How could you know if you're in a position where this is something you should start considering? Well, what do you guys typically look for to know that this is a product that or a strategy that might work for someone or someone?
Go ahead, Mike. You want to take it?
Yeah, so basically to start out, we want to make sure you're at least 59 and a half. So that basically you want to be at least 59 and a half, and you want to have some type of retirement. So you want to have a retirement account already set up. If you don't, this can be your initial one, but you do most times want you to have one already set up. And then from there, we'll look at when's your plan to retire. Are you looking to retire at 62, 65, 70? What are you looking at? What's your plan for retirement? But to actually enter into an annuity, I would say around 59 and a half.
Got you. And I've seen the process, which I think is whether or not if you're thinking about retirement, it's a process that you should go for as retirement. Can you talk a little bit about that process when you guys are implementing a strategy or an annuity? What does that process look like, Will? That 3-step process. Yeah.
So okay. So we don't just recommend annuities just to recommend them. We take you through a process. We call it our finish line process. And so what we do, we take you through a discovery call where we just ask you a bunch of questions, see what your goals are, and kind of just get to know you, making sure you're a good fit for us, we're a good fit for you. We do that on the first call, but we take a lot of information on that first call. On the second call, in between the first call and the second call, we do a lot of research. We put together your retirement profile so that we can see exactly what some of the red flags you might have, some of the deficiencies you might have, see when you might run out of money. We'll be able to tell you that. And so we do all the research and make sure we put everything into the system. On that second call, we go over it with you, right? And so we'll say, look, here's all your numbers, right? And we'll look it over with you, answer any questions you may have. And then what we'll do is once you give us the go ahead, we'll solve those problems for you. That's when we recommend, okay, well, annuity of this amount will work for you, or long-term care of this amount will work for you. Life insurance will work for you here. And so we'll do that, and we'll implement those things on that third call.
Awesome. And I know you guys got, again, this is a conversation we're having over lunch. And I know you guys usually do webinars. And I believe you guys have a more in-depth webinar coming up soon.
Yes, we have a webinar tonight at 7:00. We're going to go over tax planning and long-term care.
Okay. So do you mind, can you share that? If you guys could, before we get off here, just share that in the chat so we can have our audience, if they have any more questions, or if they just want a little bit deeper dive, they can definitely attend that webinar later tonight. All right, we got a couple of questions that I want to make sure we take some time to ask. What we'll do is we'll take the questions we have in the chat, and then we'll open it up to people. So we have Faye ask a question: as business owners, are you able to recommend someone who can have insurance for CEO and business partners to ensure their business continuity? Is this what you were talking about as far as key man insurance, right? Correct?
Yeah, we can do that for you.
Yeah, and just for those who don't know, could you explain what a key man insurance policy is, or how that can help someone?
Key man insurance is so for example, if you're the CEO of a company and you have a COO, or you have someone that's just you consider vital to the business, you can take out an insurance policy on them. So if something happens to them, basically that percentage that they own of the business, basically you have that cash on hand to either hire someone else or just help the business run. So that's basically what long story short, what key man insurance is.
And they can't help you with that. Are trusts relevant to this conversation? We spoke a little bit about that. And I mean, I think for business owners, that's a huge part of how this plays. So I think we did cover that trusts are a relevant, important portion of this conversation. We're talking about retirement. Faye had another question. She said, is the best strategy to deduct from corporate income and invest in an annuity? If so, are the stock losses tax deductible on Schedule C? Are the annuity payments considered a business expense? So let's start with that one. Are the annuity payments considered a business expense?
See, so for that, my understanding is you would have to offer that to everybody in your company. If you don't offer that to everybody in your company, then it couldn't be. That's what I believe. That's how I understand it. Thinking I could barely talk, but from my understanding, you have to offer that to everybody in your company for it to be a tax before it can be tax deductible.
Okay, awesome. All right. Does anybody? We're going to open up the floor. If you want to just raise your hand or unmute yourself if you have a question in relation to our topic today, and ask one of our guests. Any questions? Ken, you're raising your hand. Go ahead, Ken. Why don't we go ahead and unmute yourself and you could ask your question.
So when you showed the chart of the two sisters, was the first chart of the sister who's funding, well, let me back up. I've seen charts on annuities, and I haven't seen it where your principal balance goes up. So is that based on the market? Maybe I was looking at it was fixed for a certain amount of time, and then it starts deducting from your principal to principal, and then when you zero out, you still continue to get whatever that payment is, 2,500, 3,000, or whatever. So kind of clear that up for me.
So hold up. So you saying you saw charts? Say
So
what you
typically with
saw.
someone's, because I'm 59 and a half. So I've been looking at this. So with the few financial planners have given me, it'll be a chart and it'll say, you start off with X dollar amount, let's say 500,000. And then you have to keep it in there for, some of them say 1 year, some say 2 years, whatever. And then you'll see that your interest kind of increases for those couple of years that it's in there. But then after that, it goes down, 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 down. Then you get to a break-even point where you just continue to get paid, even though you no longer have a principal balance. Are they showing me a wrong chart, or am I misunderstanding how that works?
No, they're not showing you a wrong chart. That's just a particular type of annuity. So they have annuities when you can be, it's called a guaranteed income annuity. That's what you're speaking to. So basically what's happening there is they're guaranteeing you a certain amount of money forever. So what happens is you see during that 10-year period, whatever it takes, it goes up. Then once you start taking the guaranteed income, it comes down until all the money is gone. Now, if all the money is gone and you're still living, you continue to get that guaranteed income. But there are other types of annuities where you don't have to necessarily take guaranteed income. You can take income as you see fit after that 10-year time period or whatever the time period is. So that's just one particular type of annuity. That's a guaranteed income annuity.
Yeah.
Does that answer your question, Ken?
Yeah.
Ken, we'll show you some annuities, man. All annuities don't work like that. Like there are annuities that you can receive income and your principal balance still go up. There's lots of annuities that do that, actually.
So I have another question if nobody else has one. So I guess I must have Googled something at some point. So now every day I get Facebook and whatever message saying, I get two. One saying if you have $500,000, you can live forever, and the other one say, don't do annuities, don't do annuities, are bad for you. So what's the pros and cons of? People seem to have either they really like annuities or they really hate annuities. I don't get anyone that says that in the middle of the road.
I think it's one of those things where annuity, it's a broad term, but it covers a lot of different types of annuities. You see what I'm saying? So they're all not created equal. So if you want to go let's go on the pro. If we're on the pro side, if you're in the market, like a year like last year when the market was down 19%, I'm taking the S&P 500, for example, in an annuity, you would have been at 0%. So you wouldn't have taken that loss last year. And so therefore, this year you would have just been all profit. If like the market's back rebounded, I didn't take a loss last year. But some people may say, well, it's capped. You can only make a certain amount. Well, you can only make a certain amount because they're offering you protection on the other side. So, it's weighted that way. So that can be considered a pro or con depending on who you're speaking to. Now the other thing that some people actually have a hang up with annuities is you have to leave your money there for a certain period of time. And so you may want access to your funds. You can get access to the money. It just depends on how the annuity is structured. So a lot of times when you start getting the pros and cons, they're talking about an individual type of annuity, but they're making it sound like they're talking about all annuities, and all annuities aren't the same.
And Ken, I just wanted to share my 2 cents. William and Michael are sharing 100% accurate information. And I think that's the key because a lot of people have not gotten accurate information and they have not been marketed or sold the right annuity products. And it's just kind of like insurance. You have professionals in the industry and you have people that aren't professional. And I think as you're getting this accurate information from Michael and William, this actually sets the tone for you to be able to get good information to make a quality decision about an annuity. But there are a lot of nuances. So it probably would be worth your time sitting down with the gentleman so they can cover the nuances so that you'll have a really good understanding. I think an annuity is the best thing since buttered bread.
Yeah, and I think the thing is it's a financial tool, right? I mean, I think it's not like a one solution solves, one or the other. I think you want different. That's why I think the process that I've seen you guys go through is so important because they don't look at it as a blanket solution for everyone. I've heard them do presentations or consultations where annuity doesn't make sense for the person at all, right? It wouldn't be a smart decision for them. But I think they look at their situation, what's their goals. I think that's a big part of what you guys do is you look at what your goal is, what's your current scenario as far as your retirement, what's your income prospects are going to be, and what your expenses are going to be, and then they can now match up a product that makes sense for you. Do we have any other questions, Faye? I think was that your
Yeah.
point you were made, or you have another question?
I
Yes,
saw a question.
to try to engage in the conversation a little bit. So
Okay,
instead of typing them into the chat.
awesome.
So so thank you very much for acknowledging my hand. So again, chambers of commerce are always giving us really good information. And being a business owner, the conversation has always been surrounded by generational wealth, creating generational wealth. So when you started off the conversation with the Southeast Asian immigrant group, they have a solid strategy for generational wealth. And I know my father, before he passed, he had an annuity and it did very well while he was living. But after he died, the money stopped. And there was that income didn't support the next generations. So all of his wealth went into an annuity. And then when he passed on, there was no money that continued on for the next generation, myself and my siblings. So as an entrepreneur, business owner, it's similar to the example that you articulated at the beginning of the conversation. In that particular community, which I'm aware of, they do create those life insurance products. So it's much better for their children to the point where their children or their grandchildren eventually do not have to work for income or in the business world, they call selling time for money. They basically get to do what they want. So what we're often told as entrepreneurs is, like somebody brought up, to develop trust, put your assets in a trust, and then have explicit instructions on how that trust is handled. And then when it comes to your business, there's never a discussion about, okay, you're going to, after you built this asset, retire and leave it. The goal, especially if you're in technology, and that's the trend with technology companies, and that's what I have, is to create an asset that's invested and has enough money where it's sold on the stock exchange itself. And then that becomes your retirement or else you start another venture. So again, when it comes, obviously when I brought up the issue about annuities as an expense is because, if you have an organization, you do want to create that 401k for the people who help you build your organization. And yeah, that's why I'm thinking it should be a business expense if people are paying into it. And then if it is an expense and then you have a volatile market like you do right now, are you able to write off those losses depending on how that money's invested on the Schedule C? Because it's an expense, there's an overhead and everything that you can write off for the people that are employees to your organization.
So Faye,
But
we're going to be having
primarily is to continue to work without the goal, or what I've been taught or instructed, the strategy is to, why are you retiring in the first place? Why are you going to abandon something that you struggle to put together? And if you put it together, the inheritance is to create generational wealth, keep it going for the next generation, or it's in a trust where somebody else can build it. So
yeah. So
that's all I want.
we're looking to
I don't
do
understand.
Yeah, we're looking to do another series, and we're going to have some accountants just talk about accounting strategies for businesses. So, that's a good point. I'm going to make sure that that's something we cover as well. Retirement and what are maybe some of the tax implications for that. Will and Mike, as far as what you said, as far as an annuity not going on into the future, aren't there ways you can set up an annuity where there is the beneficiary
Yeah.
can continue to receive income?
So what happened with her dad was he had a lifetime income annuity, sort of like what Ken was looking at with the people that he'd been talking to. And those don't go, if you pass with those, the money doesn't go on to your next generation, because the way they design it is they design it to last the rest of your life. But there's other annuities where if you take what's called period certain income payments, then that money goes on to your next generation, right? And so you like Mike said earlier, you just got to be careful on which type of annuities you go after. And so that's one of the things that we at Fair Legacy make sure that our clients don't have those type of annuities, just because we don't want that. We're about legacy. And so if you can't pass your money on to the next generation, then it kind of defeats the purpose. And so we just make sure we put you in annuities that can go on to the next generation.
But in that circumstance, you do have to leave like maybe the principal in for a certain period of time before you can take draws against it, right?
No, not necessarily, no.
And all of those wind up being sort of case by case specifics.
Yeah.
And so it might be worth you having a conversation with Michael and William for the nuances of that.
Yeah, there's different. There's. I mean, we have what? I mean, we deal with a lot of different annuities carriers. Obviously, we niche it down to the ones we feel are best. But I mean, we just have a lot of experience with this stuff. And then because of the amount of volume that we do, carriers are always coming to us with their new products. And the annuity industry has evolved a lot over the last 20 years. So like I said, we don't just recommend an annuity to you right away. We take you through a process. We understand your goals, and then we make the recommendation on which annuity is, so it tailor fits to where you want to go.
Well, the goal is tax shelter, I think, at least for me, in terms of corporate ownership. And the way the economy is right now, and looking at it through 2020 vision, it's in a recession, we have high inflation, and with the border situation, taxes will increase on the middle class to support those who have come into this country and need, housing, and there, certain things, education, public school education, so on and so forth, and housing, because America has evolved away from public housing, but now we're in a situation where we have to recreate public housing because of, the open border situation. So I'm just simply saying the outlook is not favorable because taxes will increase. And that's a situation beyond anyone's control. And they will have an impact on the entrepreneur, the business owner, because the tax burden, where even though they have that ceiling at 400K in terms of income, they're going to have to, by no one's fault, reduce that ceiling to the average everyday American, which will not allow people to retire the way that they want to under the scenarios or the examples that you illustrated earlier.
Okay.
So just to speak to that really quickly, this evening we'll have we're gonna go into the detail about tax planning. So that may be a session that you want to join. And then a lot of times your concerns, your goals are going to be individual, and we have products that we match up to meet what your individual needs are.
Okay, Ken, I know you had another question. Go ahead, Ken.
So right now, where the market is, you can go out and get a CD for 5%, 5.5%. Banks are pressure. So in a good market, what do annuity rates kind of look like right now? And is this an average? What kind of range are we looking?
Want to answer that, Mike?
It depends on which product. Like we have products that can get you as high as between 8 to 10%, and then we have other guaranteed products that are going to be lower around that CD rate, anywhere between 5 and 7. So it just really matters. And also you get to pick, like you can diversify. So for example, if you want more market exposure, we have different vehicles that can give you more market exposure. If you want to just mimic necessarily like a BlackRock, not to get too detailed, but what a BlackRock or a Vanguard does, we can do that. We can have you, in Dow, we can have you in commodities. It just really depends on where you're currently invested and what your goals are for your money, and then also how much time you have on your side.
Okay, so what would you recommend for someone who's doing short term? So I just left my career of banking for 40 years, so I'm 59 and a half. And I'm trying to figure out, can I do full-time retirement at 62, 65, or 70? So I'm trying to figure out what those dollar scenarios look like.
So I hate to say this, but I would have to talk to you one-on-one because I have to understand your lifestyle. You could be somebody that spends $5,000 a month, or you could be somebody that spends $10,000 a month. And without me knowing that, I can't really answer that question. Does that make sense?
Ken,
It does.
So that's why
Ken, that's a loaded question. It's kind of like going to a doctor you've been to the first time and telling them you got a headache, and then they just hand you something. It don't work that way. You need a full fiduciary exam, Ken. So you
guys say that. You guys say that, but I hand to God, I have gone now to 5 different financial planners, and I've said to them, I've given them by detail what my assets look like and what my goals are. And I've still not gotten a definitive answer on a plan of action. So I've done this to the umpteenth degree.
Okay, why does it take 5? I'm sure they're giving you an answer.
The best I've gotten, the best I've gotten is a chart that shows me, kind of like with the chart you just showed on the 2 sisters. I've gotten a chart that said, if you invest X dollar amount, this is what your scenario will look like.
Well,
let me ask you this. So
I hope you have included William in those 4. Can you make them the 5th
Ken,
and give
we'll
them a
take
try?
care of you. Ken, we'll take care of you, man. No problem. No question. No
yeah,
question.
You'll have a conversation that when you leave, you'll know at age X, my money is going
we'll
to
take
run
care
out.
of you, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I just have to say, isn't the challenge the inflation question? Because even though you set aside a certain amount right now today to put in an annuity at, I guess, X interest, and you take those draws, is that money going to allow you to live comfortably enough into the future and adjust for inflation?
So
Yeah, that's a good
Faye,
question.
we're
Talk
not
about
putting
that,
all the
Ron.
money into annuities. You got to have different buckets, remember? And so some of that money you want to put where you have growth stock, right? Some of that money you can have an annuity. Some of that money you can have just as straight up bonds. It's just, you got to have, and one of the things we do in our sessions, we will give you an inflation report. So we'll show, what inflation looks like with your expenses, the expenses that you're currently paying, and the inflation report on those things. And we'll also show how inflation will stack up against your assets. So we give you all of that and when we do our retirement report.
I get that, but I don't think anybody could have predicted that America would be in the situation that it is in right now. And who knows what's going to happen, maybe 10 years down the road in terms of your projection and the charts that you could, convey. Because right now, hypothetically, if the USD is not used as the world standard in terms of currency, that will have an impact on, like Mr. White said, and what you decide to invest and how it's going to be, support your lifestyle 5 or 10 years from now, if there is a way to support your lifestyle 5 or 10 years from now. And the reason why I say if is because of the circumstances that exist today, which do not allow for a comfortable, a warm, fuzzy feeling, if you will, without being too political about the economic standards of today. No one could have predicted that they would have to, that your income would not match up with your income, that you'd have to drive an electric car, you couldn't pay your utilities, can't buy a house, whatever the circumstances are. I think a person who retires today and had annuities is in trouble. And then if you are able to have a certain lifestyle, maybe 5 or 10 years from now, no one knows what that picture is really going to look like, what that situation is going to look like if you were to invest $5,000 today,
Okay.
it's only going to be like a $1,200
I'm
5
listening.
years from now. Mhm. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Okay.
All
Who
right.
we
Yes,
have
I'm
there speaking?
Mhm.
Can you? Who's that? Just so
This
just
is-
we know
this
who's
is-
talking.
This is Karen.
Okay, go ahead, Karen. Go ahead, Karen.
And not to take away Michael and William's presentation or their thunder. When you're annuities are a contract, just like insurance is a contract. And so when you set these up, it's a contractual agreement that they're obligated to fulfill. We can get into the weeds and the nuances about, you know, the market condition and all the future. We've been through the Great Depression and the pandemic, and, you know, we're going to have market ups and downs. When you start talking about some of the situations and occurrences, if the US collapses, I don't think anybody with any product is going to be safe. So when you look at the safety of insurance companies, they are probably the most stable industry on the planet. And so what I would encourage you to do is set up a time with William and Michael where they can go through your specifics and see if they can answer some of your questions and maybe share some insight on some of the things that would benefit you and your company. I think they come well prepared with years of experience where they would be able to, even if you decided not to go with them, be able to answer some of these nuanced questions for you. I would strongly encourage you to meet with them.
Yeah,
So Karen,
this is a good
Karen,
conversation.
how much they pay you?
Excuse me?
I said, how much
You
do
gotta
we
say
know
Oh,
about
it's
pay you?
actually my first time meeting them, but I'm in the industry, and you know, everything they've said is legitimate. I'm in the
That is
industry.
the
Yeah.
best endorsement. Like, that's really great, really
Yeah.
great. Hey,
Well,
guys, I have a
honestly-
question, just in
Go
general.
ahead, Ken.
So right now, my concern is probably opposite, or my outlook is probably opposite than what Faye's is, because right now, even though the economy is bad, interest rates are high. So for me, if I could continue to get 5.5% on my money and the principal not go down, that would be great for me. But then I'm assuming the opposite, that rates are going to go down, and then I'm going to be leaving money on the table. So can you speak to that? You know, economy is bad, but rates are high. And at some point, how do
So
we
real quick,
approach?
Will and Mike, what was the return this year? Because if you guys were in the S&P, what are the returns looking like this year? I guess just to talk about the economy being bad. If you were in the, let's say if you were a federal worker and you were in the C fund.
Well, the economy isn't bad this year.
Right.
That's just the sentiment, and that's talk radio. But if you look at the C fund, it's up to 18% right now. That's the fund in the federal government that mimics the S&P 500. So, I mean, we're saying saying the economy is bad means different things to different people. So if we're talking about what the market return is of the S&P right now, it's not bad if you go off of the year from now to August. Now, if you ask people, is the economy bad, talking about inflation and the rates of home mortgage loans going out, they're gonna say the economy's bad. But so it really just, you know, that it's a loaded question. That what's bad mean to you? We're coming from a retirement preparation and planning perspective, and trying to give you protection against the bad, in a sense of a bad market return. So if you want to look at it from that standpoint, this year your annuity is gonna grow. If you're invested in necessarily the S&P 500. So I hope that answers your question, Ken. As far as okay.
So and I mean we're at 2:00, and I want to be respectful of our presenters' time. But this is a very dynamic conversation. I really appreciate Will and Michael coming on. I really appreciate all of our attendees for just, the worst thing is to have a webinar and have no one engage in the conversation. So I appreciate everybody's feedback and responding to the questions. I think the point that I'm taking from here is that one that, with everything, when you're planning for the future, there is going to be there's going to be some uncertainty. And the best thing you can do for that uncertainty is to put together a plan. So there's not a one fit solution for everything, We're all not going to be able to predict exactly what happens in the future, but the best thing you could do is build a plan around that. And this is just one product, one solution that you could do that. So they put in there that you can book a call right there. We'll put that in there to book a call with them. Also, remember, there's going to be an event this tonight. They're going to talk about some tax planning. Thank you, gentlemen, so much. If
Thank
you're
you.
not a member, I can't stress now is a perfect time to join. I wanted to I want to make sure I want to pull up the website, but I'm not having to get it right now. But when you get a chance,
I
check out the
think-
new website.
I think everybody on here is a member.
Okay, awesome. What I wanted to show you though.
Karen, you're a member, right?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, so Vicky, Faye, Kelly, well, Faye's a member, Kelly's a new member. So yeah, so the ones left are all members.
Yeah, so hold on a second. I just kind of wanted to have it. This is something, and then I'll let everybody go. Give me 1 second. Just wanted to show you because this is very important to us here at the chamber. If you log into your account, I want you guys to go in there and update your profile. It looks like I'm not logged in any longer, but let me to go into your account and update. There's some very important information that we need as an organization that helps us. Oh, there we go. I am logged in.
Are you sharing? There we go.
Yes. So if you go in and you go to your dashboard here, this is my profile, and then go to profile details. We're asking that you go ahead and update. This is the information when you first set up, this information we have, but there's some more information that we want to learn about your business, what industry you're in, how many employees, what your annual revenue are. Do you have any federal certifications, any state certifications? Are there any affinity groups that you're associated with, social media platforms that you use, or advocacy issues that you want to represent? This is going to give us some vital information as we go to our state, local government representatives, as we go to our government contracting partners, to help them identify businesses that could help them partner with on government contracts. So we're asking that you go in, update your account with the profile information, check our new website, give us some feedback. If you're having trouble logging in, there's some instructions here on how to change your password if you're an active member, if you're a new member, and if you're having any issues. So just wanted to end with that. Thank you guys for being a member. Thanks again to our guest. And stay tuned. If you're not subscribed to our newsletter, do that as well. And we'll talk next month with our next one. Our next one's going to be on hiring an employee, the difference between a 1099 and W-2 employees. What do you need to think about when hiring an employee is going to be our next webinar in September. So I want to thank everyone for joining, and we'll talk next time.
Thank you.
Well, Nelson, stay on for a quick sec.
All right, you can stop recording.